Hello, welcome to another Daily Seeds of Flourishing. Oh, my voice just went then. So welcome to another Daily Seeds of Flourishing. So today's daily seed is the Tao. And I'm just going to talk a little bit around it, a bit about my path, I suppose, into Taoism. And I'm also going to finish off with an album recommendation. So this is something I'm going to sort of shoehorn into episodes going forward. Is at the end of it, I'll just do an album recommendation of an album that's coming up to some sort of anniversary around the time when this video goes out. So let's just look at the Wikipedia article. So, Tao or Tao is the natural order of the universe, whose character one's intuition must discern to realize the potential for individual wisdom, as conceived in the context of East Asian philosophy, East Asian religions, or any other philosophy or religion that aligns to this principle. This intuitive knowing of life cannot be grasped as a concept, rather it is known through actual living experience of one's everyday being. Its name, Tao or Tao, came from Chinese, where it signifies the way, path, route, road, or sometimes more loosely doctrine, principle, or holistic belief. Just a little bit more information here. Laozi in the Dowdy Ching explains that the Tao is not a name for a thing, but the underlying natural order of the universe, whose ultimate essence is difficult to circumscribe because it is non-conceptual yet evident in one's being of aliveness. The Tao is eternally nameless, and that's taken from within the Dowdy Ching. And to be distinguished from the countless named things that are considered to be its manifestations, the reality of life before its descriptions of it. So, if you're familiar with existentialism, you might see echoes of that in existentialism actually. So how did I become interested in the Tao? Well, I came in via Buddhism. I suppose like a lot of people in their 20s, I was looking for some sort of spiritual dimension to my life, and I was very attracted to Buddhism. But the problem I found in Buddhism is it did seem quite complex. There's like 3 of this, 8 of that, 5 of this, 7. There's a lot of lists in Buddhism. And I was looking for something a bit more simple and a bit more connected to just the everyday being. And so I suppose I naturally then gravitated towards Zen Buddhism, and then through that, Taoism. So I suppose a good starting point, if you are interested in Taoism, I'm going to include all the links in the description for this, is the Dowdy Ching. So it's a classic Chinese text written about 400 BC and traditionally credited to the sage Laozi. The text's authorship, date of composition and date of completion are debated. The oldest excavated portion dates back to the late 4th century BC, but modern scholarship dates other parts of the text as being written or at least compiled later than earlier portions. But it is a good starting point. Laozi, or Laozi, actually, is or was, an ancient Chinese philosophy and writer. He is the reputed author of the Dowdy Ching, the founder of philosophical Taoism, and a deity in religious Taoism and traditional Chinese religions. So he's actually a semi-legendary figure. So he's one of those figures where, I suppose scholars may have a little bit of difficulty in pinning down in terms of the sort of historical context. So I suppose you get some forms of consensus, but to be honest, I don't concern myself too much with who exactly Laozi or Laozi was, but I'm sort of more interested in the actual contents of the Dowdy Ching. Now, off to the back of that, I also got interested in Qigong. And you can see Qigong is sort of aspects of it are present here in a number of different frameworks, if you like. TCM, Taoism, Buddhism, Confucianism. The bit that I became most acquainted with and where I sort of first discovered it was this 8 pieces of brocade. So these 8 movements, I suppose you could call them. I suppose some people might consider them to be exercises, but they're done very slow. And 8 pieces of brocade is because there's 8 of them, and they are listed. Very simple exercises to do. There's been some studies on their sort of effect, but another interesting thing to take a look at: clench fists and glare fiercely. Yeah, all of these have very nice names here. Wise owl gazes backwards or look back. And I think these are just good as general stretching exercises as well, even if you don't get too in depth into exactly what the movements do from a sort of Chinese medicine perspective, from a flow of qi perspective. Again, I'll include a link to this if you're interested in exploring these movements. But obviously, the usual warnings that apply when you're attempting any movement. Although these are incredibly gentle, it's a good idea to have a word with your doctor before going on any sort of medical, any exercises or anything like that, just to make sure that it's not going to interfere with any pre-existing conditions that you have or might cause a problem. Like some of these, if you've got a bit of a dodgy back, you might want to get some advice on. But an interesting thing to certainly take a look at. Just folding back to Taoism, there is a very interesting historical discussion in our time, which I've mentioned in a previous episode. So there's a few things to think about there. Potentials for flourishing around, a starting point of Taoism. The album recommendation I'm going to do, and I'm going to tack this on the end of my episodes going forward. I got inspired to do this from watching the JHS channel, which is primarily a channel about effects, guitar effects. And on that, Josh, the owner of JHS, was often, when he's doing pedal reviews, has an album recommendation at the end of it. So I wanted to pick an album that's coming up for an anniversary, and I thought I'd pick this one. So it's All the Young Dudes, released on 8th of September 1972. So this video's going out on the 29th of August 2002. So this is coming up now for 50 years old. Probably most famous for having All the Young Dudes on it, which is a cover they did, or was written by David Bowie. It gets a bit muddy because he wrote it for them, and then once it had come out he also released it himself as well. So I believe their version came out before his. But yeah, well worth a listen. Certainly if you've got Spotify, it's really easy now to have a listen to. I think I did mention in a previous record about Island Records, so a bit of a connection here. I did one on Grace Jones, and this was done around the time they left Island Records. Oh, yes, a whole load of story around that, which we won't necessarily go in there. You can see there's other songwriters on here as well. There's one by Lou Reed, Sweet Jane. There's a David Bowie one, a few other ones. Yeah, some written by the band here. Some Ian Hunter compositions and some Mick Ralphs and Pete Overend Watts. So there we have it. So I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a spotlight on Taoism. Thanks once again for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.